I've spent the last decade producing for major artists and playing at festivals across Asia, but recently I realized that the best sounding music that I make comes from the simplest setup. So today I'm going to show you how to make a professional sounding lo-fi track from scratch using just my laptop and these headphones. Alright, so usually when I'm producing, I like to go for a melodic element of sorts. So sometimes that is a chord progression or a melody loop. If it's not a loop, I try to play around with the keys myself. But today I went through this pack and found this chord progression here, and it sounds like this. It got that lo-fi vibe that I really like. To begin, I play around with the pitch a little bit. I do want to make the sample my own. I think I liked it here. 2 semitones up. And what I like to do usually is I try to recreate the chord progression myself just so that I can get the MIDI and then play around. I found this piano called Far Far Away retro piano, so I'm gonna try and recreate that chord progression. Instead of using a piano, I went for a synth from Zero, and it sounds like this. Now, just so I can get a groove, I'm going to find like a percussion loop, just so I can get a feel for how the track is gonna move forward. I went back to Zero and found this lead. A sidechain effect on it as well. So now I'm gonna add some drums, and for lo-fi specifically, I noticed that the songs that are out there have this very drunk swing to it. We want that kind of like head movement right here, and so far we have that with that percussion loop that I added. So I'm gonna go ahead and add snare pattern, which I found this snare and it sounded pretty cool. Okay, so this is what we got. Another thing that I like to do is I will look for a drum loop and add it to the drums that I have already and just cut out the parts that I like. So for example, this loop, I really like that snare right here. So that's what I'm gonna take from it, honestly. I'm also gonna leave that hi-hat. Sounds cool. Now altogether, this is what the drums sound like. Now I think it's time to add a bass, and I'm gonna go to my favorite bass, which I have not saved still, even though I use this bass all of the time. Make sure it's in the right key. Okay, perfect. I'm going to copy the MIDI here, then turn the notes off and just start with the bass notes. Honestly, I like to do that and kind of listen back until I find, I don't know, until I hear something in my head and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let me start moving notes around. So I'm gonna start with that first. While I was making the bass, I had this idea for the synth. I added the same sidechain effect from this sound. And then I added this other hash effect, which makes things like wide. So when the chords hit, it'll be somewhere near the center, and then it's gonna open up a little bit, and it's gonna go to the side with the sidechain effect. So it sounds like this. I copied the same chord progression and came up with this melody. And I'm thinking I'm gonna bring it in later on because it definitely is going to clash with this. Sounds good. So we already have a pretty solid idea. When it comes to lo-fi, the simpler the better. So all we gotta really do is structure it, add a few transition effects and stuff like that. It's still a very simple beat, so I'm not necessarily gonna leave it just like this. So for now, I'm gonna focus on structuring the beat. So I'm gonna start doing that now. Let's find another chord elements. Go back to Omnisphere, search for a lo-fi synth or even some keys. All right, so I think this is gonna be the intro instrument. It sounds super cool. So while I was structuring the beat, I had a little bit of an idea and I wanted to switch up some of the instruments or towards the end. But altogether it sounds like this. Now I'm going to try and add a guitar to it. So I'm gonna look for a sample that's in the same key, hopefully. First try, that's kind of crazy. Usually it takes me so long to find something that fits exactly how I want it, but this one is perfect. Come on, man. Come on. Wow, that's great. So maybe it'll be good for the end because we already have these melodic elements here, so we don't want them to clash, and it sounded like a little bit too much for my liking. I think that the beat is in a good spot right now. All I really have to add is some white noise in the background or some rain sounds, maybe a drum fill here and there. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the beat. And for my first time doing a beat tutorial or a beat breakdown or a cook-up, whatever you want to call it, I think it's pretty decent. It's interesting having to, one, be focused on producing and at the same time voice what's happening in my mind currently when I'm producing, like what I'm looking for, what am I hearing. And this is like a first try. I think that, look, I'm quite happy with it. I'll continue to add a few elements and then we can do a last listen. So the reason why I'm leaning into lo-fi now is because when you're working with major artists and chasing placements, you're creating more of like a product. And lo-fi has allowed me to tap back into the version of me who made music just for fun, who released music just for fun with no expectation. And also at the same time, lo-fi is so much more laid back and it's a simpler process, and I really enjoy that. So now I'm gonna show you where we started. I'm gonna play you the original sample that we found, and then I'm gonna run through the finished beat. As a heads up, I went back and edited a few things, cleaned up a few things just so that it sounded more cohesive. Here's the original sample. And this is the finished beat. Let me know what y'all think. Honestly, I'm very excited to start this journey. It's something that is brand new for me, not only to speak to the camera, but to show people my process and how I make music. Yeah, excited to see what happens. If you got any feedback, any suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comments. So yeah, hope y'all enjoy.